Spotify is a Swedish audio streaming and media service provider. The provider was founded on April 23, 2006 by Daniel Ek and Martin Lorentzon, and to this very day, the provider is still alive and healthy. So, how did it become so popular? Let's find out. Spotify was founded in 2006 in Stockholm, Sweden, by Daniel Ek, former CTO of Stardoll, and Martin Lorentzon, co-founder of Trade Doubler. According to Ek, the company's title was initially misheard from a name shouted by Lorentzon. Later, they conceived a portmanteau of spot and identify. Daniel Ek's initial pitch to Lorentzon was not initially related to music, but rather a way for streaming content such as video, digital films, images, or music to drive advertising revenue. Early and international launches. In February 2009, Spotify opened public registration for the free service tier in the United Kingdom. Registration surged following the release of the mobile service, leading Spotify to halt registration for the free service in September, returning to the UK to invitation-only policy. Spotify launched in the United States in July 2011 and offered a 6-month ad-supported trial period, during which new users could listen to an unlimited amount of music for free. In January 2012, the free trial periods began to expire, limiting users to 10 hours of streaming each month and 5 plays per song. Using PC streaming, a similar structure to the one used today allowed the listener to play songs freely, but with ads, every 4 to 7 songs depending on listening duration. Later that same year, in March, Spotify removed all limits on the free service tier indefinitely. In March, Spotify removed all limits on the free service tier indefinitely, including mobile devices. In April 2016, Ek and Lorentzon wrote an open letter to Swedish politicians demanding action in 3 areas that they claimed hindered the company's ability to recruit top talent as Spotify grew, including access to flexible housing, better education in the programming and development fields, and stock options. Ek and Lorentzon wrote that to continue competing in a global economy, politicians needed to respond with new policies, or thousands of Spotify jobs would be moved from Sweden to the United States. In February 2017, Spotify announced the expansion of its United States operation in Lower Manhattan, New York City, at 4 World Trade Center, adding approximately 1,000 new jobs and retaining 832 existing positions. The company's U.S. headquarters are in New York City's Fullerton district. On November 14, 2018, the company announced 13 new markets in the MENA region, including the creation of a new Arabic hub and several playlists. Other developments. Streaming records. In October 2015, Thinking Out Loud by Ed Sheeran became the first song to pass 500 million streams. A month later, Spotify announced that Lean On by Major Lazer and DJ Snake featuring Mo was its most streamed song of all time with over 525 million streams worldwide. In April 2016, Rihanna overtook Justin Bieber to become the biggest artist on Spotify with 31.3 million monthly active listeners. In May 2016, Rihanna was overtaken by Drake with 31.85 million monthly listeners. In December 2016, Drake's just under 36 million monthly listeners were overtaken by The Weeknd's 36.068 million. Later that same month, Drake's song One Dance became the first song to hit 1 billion streams on Spotify. Upon its release in August 2017, the single Look What You Made Me Do by Taylor Swift earned over 8 million streams in 24 hours breaking the record for the most single-day streams for a track.
Have you heard
On June 19, 2018, XXXTentacion's hit single Sad broke Swift's single-day streaming record, amassing 10.4 million streams the day after he was fatally shot in Florida. User growth. In March 2011, Spotify announced a customer base of 1 million paying subscribers across Europe, and by September 2011, the number of paying subscribers had doubled to 2 million. In August 2012, Time reported 15 million active users, 4 million being paying Spotify subscribers. User growth continued, reaching 20 million total active users, including 5 million paying customers globally and 1 million paying customers in the United States in December 2012. By March 2013, the service had 24 million active users, 6 million being paying subscribers, which grew to 40 million users, including 10 million paying in May 2014, 60 million users, including 15 million paying in December 2014, 75 million users, 20 million paying in June 2015, 30 million paying subscribers in March 2016, 40 million paying subscribers in September 2016, and 100 million total users in June 2016. In April 2020, Spotify reached 133 million premium users. In countries affected by the COVID-19 pandemic, Spotify registered a fall in users in late February, but it has seen a recovery. In March 2022, Spotify had 182 million premium subscribers. At the end of Q2 2022, Spotify reported 188 million paying subscribers and 433 million total users. At the end of Q3 2024, Spotify reported 252 million subscribers and 640 million monthly active users.
This is Captain
Premium
Crunch.
exclusive albums. The Financial Times reported in March 2017 that, as part of its efforts to renegotiate new licensing deals with music labels, Spotify and major record labels had agreed that Spotify would restrict some newly released albums to its premium tier, with Spotify receiving a reduction in royalty fees to do so. Select albums would be available only on the premium tier for a period of time before general release. The deal may be months away from being finalized, but Spotify is said to have cleared this particular clause with major record labels. New reports in April confirmed that Spotify and Universal Music Group had reached an agreement to allow artists, part of Universal, to limit their new album releases to the premium service tier for a maximum of 2 weeks. Spotify CEO Daniel Ek commented that we know that not every album by every artist should be released the same way, and we've worked hard with UMG to develop a new, flexible release policy. Starting today, Universal artists can choose to release new albums on Premium only for 2 weeks, offering subscribers an early chance to explore the complete curated work, while the singles are available across Spotify for all listeners to enjoy. It was announced later in April that this type of agreement would be extended to indie artists, signed to the Merlin Network Agency. Direct public offering. Spotify went public on the stock market in April 2018, using a direct public offering rather than an initial public offering. This approach is not intended to raise fresh capital, but to let investors get their returns. Morgan Stanley is the company's slated advisor on the matter. After making its debut on the New York Stock Exchange on April 3, 2018, CNBC reported that Spotify opened a $165.90, more than 25% above its reference price of $132. 2020 hacking incident. On July 3rd, 2020, cybersecurity firm VPN Mentor discovered a database containing 380 million individual records, including the logins and passwords of Spotify users. The database was thought to be evidence of an impending credential impending credential stuffing cyber attack targeting Spotify, as it contained the credentials of up to 350,000 compromised user accounts. In response to the attack, Spotify issued a rolling reset of passwords for affected accounts in November 2020. Acquisitions, podcasting, and exclusivity deals. In May 2013, Spotify acquired music discovery app Tunigo. In March 2014, they acquired the Echo Nest, a music intelligence company. In June 2015, Spotify announced they had acquired Seed Scientific, a data science consulting firm and analytics company. In a comment to TechCrunch, Spotify said that Seed Scientific's team would lead an advanced analytics unit with the company focused on developing data services. In January 2016, they acquired social and messaging startups Chord, Project, and Soundwave, followed in April 2016 by Crowd Album, a startup that collects photos and video and performances shared on social networks, and would enhance the development of products that help artists understand, activate, and monetize their audiences. In November 2016, Spotify acquired Creek, a cloud-based platform and service developed for companies that operate on subscription models, which helps reduce churn and build up their subscriber numbers. In March 2017, Spotify acquired Sonalytic, an audio detection startup, for an undisclosed amount of money. Spotify stated that Sonalytic would be used to improve the company's personalized playlists, better match songs with compositions, and improve the company's publishing data system. Later that month, Spotify also acquired Mighty TV, an app connected to television streaming services, including Netflix and HBO Go, that recommends content to users. Spotify intended to use Mighty TV to improve its advertising efforts on the free tier of service. In April 2017, they acquired MediaChain, a blockchain startup that had been developing a decentralized database system for managing attribution to other metadata for media. This was followed in May 2017 with the acquisition of artificial intelligence startup Nyland, which uses technology to improve personalization and recommendation features for users. In November 2017, Spotify acquired Soundtrap, an online music studio startup. On April 12, 2018, Spotify acquired the music licensing platform Louder. In August 2018, Spotify bought the exclusive rights to the Joe Budden podcast and expanded the show to a twice-weekly schedule. On February 6, 2019, Spotify acquired the podcast networks Gimlet Media and Anchor FM Incorporated with the goal of establishing themselves as a leading figure in podcasting. On March 26, 2019, Spotify announced they would acquire another podcast network, Parcast. On September 12, 2019, Spotify acquired Sound Better, a music production marketplace for people in the music industry to collaborate on projects and distribute music tracks for licensing. On November 19, 2019, Spotify announced the acquisition of the exclusive rights to The Last Podcast on the Left. On February 5, 2020, Spotify announced its intent to acquire Bill Simon's sports and pop culture blog and podcast network, The Ringer, for an undisclosed amount. On May 19, 2020, Spotify acquired exclusive rights to stream the popular podcast The Joe Rogan Experience beginning in September of that year, under an agreement valued at around $100 million US, which is equivalent to $116,000 million in 2023. In November 2020, Spotify announced plans to acquire Megaphone from the Slate Group for $235 million. In March 2021, Spotify acquired app developer Betty Labs and their live social audio app Locker Room on May 12, 2021. Armchair Expert announced on Instagram that the podcast would be available exclusively on Spotify beginning July 1st, saying they would continue to maintain the same creative control over the show after the move. Locker Room was rebranded in June 2021 as Spotify Green Room and turned into a Clubhouse competitor. The same month, Spotify acquired Pods, a podcast discovery startup. Also the same month, Spotify bought the exclusive The Call Her Daddy podcast. In November 2021, Spotify acquired audiobook company Findaway, including its publishing imprint Orange Sky Audio. In December 2021, Spotify acquired Whooshka, a podcast tech company that develops specialized technology that allows radio broadcasters to easily turn their existing audio content into on-demand podcast programming. In February 2022, Spotify acquired Charttable and Podsites. Both are podcast advertising companies. In 2022, Spotify Green Room rebranded as Spotify Live, which was subsequently planned to be shut down in April 2023. In June 2022, Spotify acquired Sonatic, a synthetic voice and video developer. In July 2022, Spotify acquired Hurdle, a Wordle-inspired music trivia game for an undisclosed amount. Hurdle was shut down in May 2023. In October 2022, Spotify acquired Dublin-based content moderation startup Kinzen. In 2023, Spotify merged Anchor into their Spotify Podcasters tool, a rebranding move, and to organize its tools for creating, managing, growing, and monetizing their content into one place. In November 2024, Spotify for Podcasters was rebranded to Spotify for Curators. Company partnerships. In January 2015, Sony announced PlayStation Music, a new music service with Spotify as its exclusive partner. PlayStation Music incorporates the Spotify service into Sony's PlayStation 3 and PlayStation 4 gaming consoles, and Sony Xperia mobile devices. The service launched on March 30th, 2015. In March 2017, Spotify announced a partnership with the South by Southwest SXSW conference for 2017, presenting specific content in special playlists through an SXSW hub in Spotify's apps. The integration also enabled Spotify with the SXSW Go app to help users discover and explore artists performing at the conference. 2 more partnerships were announced in March. One with WNYC New Studios and one with Waze. The WNYC Studios partnership was bought various podcasts from WNYC to Spotify, including Note to Self, On the Media, and Here's the Thing. Spotify also announced that the 3rd season of WNYC Studios' 2 Dope Queens podcast would premiere with a 2-week exclusivity period on the service on March 21st, 2017. The Waze partnership allows Waze app users to view directions to destinations within the Spotify app and access their Spotify playlists through the Waze app. In October 2017, Microsoft announced that it would be ending its Groove music streaming service by December, with all music from users transferring to Spotify as part of a new partnership. In December, Spotify and Tencent's music arm, Tencent Music Entertainment (TME), agreed to swap stakes and make an investment in each other's music businesses. As a result of this transaction, Spotify gained a 9% stake in TME, with TME gaining a 7.5% stake in Spotify. In February 2018, Spotify integrated with the gaming-oriented voice chat service Discord on desktop clients, allowing users to display their currently playing songs, such as rich presents on their profile, and invite other users with with Spotify Premium to group listening parties. In April, Spotify announced a discounted entertainment bundle with video-on-demand provider Hulu, which included discounted rates for university students. In May 2020, Spotify teamed up with ESPN and Netflix to curate podcasts around their Michael Jordan documentary, The Last Dance. And in September, Spotify signed a deal with Sherlin Entertainment to produce movies and TV shows. In 2020 and 2021, Spotify and DC, a brand at the time under Warner Brothers Entertainment, signed deals to curate audio shows on the platform around characters such as Catwoman, Wonder Woman, the Riddler, Batgirl, Superman, and Lois Lane, among others. In 2022, Spotify became the official streaming partner of FC Barcelona. In May 2022, Spotify announced a partnership with the online game platform and game curation system Roblox. The partnership saw Spotify as the first streaming brand to have a presence within the game with the launch of Spotify Island. In March 2023, Spotify announced a partnership with Patreon, which Spotify claimed would enable curators to expand their curative business through direct payments from fans and allow fans to listen to their Patreon content on Spotify. Dispute with Apple. In July 2015, Spotify launched an email campaign to urge its App Store subscribers to cancel their subscriptions and start new ones through its website, bypassing the 30% transaction fee for in-app purchases required for the iOS applications by technology company Apple Incorporated. A later update to the Spotify app on iOS was rejected by Apple, prompting Spotify's general counsel, Jorge Guedes, to write a letter to Apple's then general counsel, Bruce Swell, stating, "This is the last episode raises serious concerns under both US and EU competition law." It continues to be a troubling pattern of behavior by Apple to exclude and diminish the competitiveness of Spotify on iOS and as a rival to Apple Music, particularly when seen against the backdrop of Apple's previous anti-competitive conduct aimed at Spotify. We cannot stand as Apple uses the App Store approval process as a weapon to harm competitors. Swell responded to the letter, "We find it troubling that you're asking for exemptions and to the rules we apply to all developers and publicly resorting to rumors and half-truths about our service." He also elaborated that our guidelines apply equally to all app developers, whether they are game developers, ebook sellers, video streaming services, or digital music distributors, and regardless of whether they compete against Apple. We did not alter our behavior or our rules when we introduced our Town music streaming service when Spotify became a competitor. Furthermore, he stated that there is nothing in Apple's conduct that amounts to a violation of applicable antitrust laws. Far from it. I would be happy to facilitate an expeditious review and approval of your app sooner as you provide us with something that is compliant with the App Store's rules. In the following month, Spotify joined several other companies in filing a letter with the European Union's antitrust body indirectly accusing Apple of Google of abusing their privileged position at the top of the market by referring to some companies as having transformed into gatekeepers rather than gateways. The complaint led to the European Union announcing that it would prepare an initiative by the end of 2017 for a possible law addressing unfair competition practices. Spotify released the first version of its Apple Watch app in November 2018, allowing playback control of the iPhone via the watch. Users can also choose which devices to play music on via Bluetooth. In a further escalation of the dispute with Apple, On March 13, 2019, Spotify filed an antitrust complaint with the European Commission over unfair App Store practices. 2 days later, Apple responded, stating that the claim was misleading, rhetoric, and that Spotify wanted benefits of a free app without being a free app. Spotify responded with a statement calling Apple a monopolist and stated that they had only filed the complaint as Apple's actions hurt competition and consumers and clearly violated the law. It also said that Apple believed Spotify users on the App Store were Apple customers and not Spotify's. Apple responded to Spotify's claims by counter-claiming that Spotify's market reach and user base would not have been possible without the Apple App Store platform. Additionally, Apple stated that they have attempted to work with Spotify to integrate the service better with Apple's products, such as Siri and Apple Watch. In 2019, under iOS 13, it became possible to play Spotify music using Siri commands. Spotify was one of the first companies to support Epic Games in their lawsuit against Apple, which was filed after Epic also tried to bypass Apple's 30% fee for microtransactions in Fortnite. In September 2020, Spotify, Epic, and other companies found the Coalition for App Fairness, which aims for better conditions for the inclusion of apps in the app stores. Dispute with Kako Entertainment Corporation. On March 1st, 2021, Spotify confirmed that its platform would no longer have access to music from artists represented by Kako Entertainment. However, after talking it out and renewing the contracts between the two, Spotify later announced they had reached an agreement with Kako Entertainment, allowing their content to be available once again on the platform across the globe. Functionality. In November 2021, Spotify hit the shuffle button for albums, allowing a request by singer Adele, arguing that tracks and albums are supposed to be played back in the order specified by the artist to tell a story. NFTs. In May 2022, Spotify began testing a feature that would allow select artists to promote their NFTs via their profiles. Some artists included in this initial test phase were Steve Aoki and the Wombats. The testing was very limited in nature and was only available on Spotify's Android app in the US. Artificial streams. In May 2013, Spotify removed tens of thousands of songs, roughly 7% of the tracks uploaded by the Boomy, due to suspected artificial streaming, the practice of using online bots to inflate the listening statistics. Ghost artists. In 2022, the Swedish daily Dagens Nyheter compared Spotify's streaming data against documents retrieved from the Swedish Copyright Collection Society, STIM, and found that around 20 songwriters were behind the work of more than 500 artists, and that thousands of their tracks were on Spotify and had been streamed millions of times. In December 2024, Harper's Magazine released a report alleging that Spotify was padding out playlists with global artists, curated by production companies in order to minimize royalty costs and increase profits. According to the report, the practice started in 2017 with a program called Perfect Content Fit, PFC. Donald Trump donation. In 2025, Spotify donated $150,000 to President Donald Trump's inauguration ceremony, as well as hosted an inauguration-related brunch. And there's the history of Spotify. How did it become so popular? Well, with the way of how things are going right now, with streaming becoming more popular than ever right now, I think that's how they became very popular. When streaming services started to rise up in popularity, that is how they became very popular, and that's how they are able to still maintain the same popularity today. But anyways, with all that being said, I think so I'm gonna end off this video. If you guys haven't enjoyed this video, please make sure to hit the like button. Don't forget to hit the like button, and also don't forget to subscribe, because I try and do videos every single day. I know that I've been a little bit far behind on videos lately. I've been sick lately, and I've also been very busy with college and work. But I am hoping to get back into the groove of them, and I do have some very exciting videos that are on their way very, very soon. I don't know if you guys can tell in my voice, but I am still a little bit sick, but I am starting to get better, so I should hopefully have those videos up very, 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 very soon. And until then, I will see you guys in the next one. Goodbye!